least 3 segments where you had to be paying attention to the background during these segment and to small details to actually see what was happening, and that being the Kenny Omega segment on the golf course. We had Hangman Page and Matt Hardy. If you weren't paying attention, you might have missed something. And same with the MJF and Sammy Guevara segment as well backstage. So very small little details during all 3 of those segments really played into the whole thing. And then I thought we had a really fun main event with some funny gags in it as well. And moving along quite a few storylines, just looking over on my notes, we had constant little pushes of like every storyline coming in and out of commercials after matches and whatnot. So overall, I thought this was a pretty decent show. I'd put it about a 4 out of 5, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that this was one of the better shows. The last couple weeks have been good, but I thought a little rocky. This was probably one of my more favorite shows of the past few weeks, actually. I thought this was really good, and that includes Beach Break, actually. I thought Beach Break, I know we talked about it a little bit, but it really just felt like maybe a lack of title matches or something just caused it not to feel quite right. I actually loved this show. There were very few things I wasn't huge on here. And actually, there's a 4th little detail that you didn't mention. It also has to do with Sammy Guevara, but in a different segment. So maybe that one was more obvious. Maybe you don't consider that a small detail. Maybe that was a big detail. But you're right. There were definitely a few cute little subtleties throughout the show. I really enjoyed, and overall, a good week at Dynamite.
What do you think about having Kenta on AEW? What do you think about seeing him?
I mean, the shock has worn off now, and now it's just a question of, how's it going to go? You know what I mean? Like, the door is open, and we'll talk about this a little bit, but people are, even those in positions of power, aka Mr. Khan and others, are fully acknowledging the existence of the Forbidden Door and the fact it's open now. So they are not making any sort of subtleties about that. But I thought seeing Kenta on AEW was really, really cool. My only, and I know that this entire relationship basically exists because of the Moxley Kenta feud. But if you had asked me, hey, if there's one guy, right, from New Japan that you want to see on AEW, Kenta wouldn't have been my number 1 pick. I like him, but he's not my favorite per se. So like, I'm biased in this sense, because Kenta, for me, like, I'd rather actually see other members of Bullet Club on Dynamite. But for what it was really awesome. Again, they pulled no punches talking about New Japan, not dropping the name by name, having the IWGP US briefcase and belt on the show. So, I mean, this was not, it's obvious that they're working together, and this is a real working relationship, not just a one-off.
Yeah, we had title belts from 3 promotions on TV tonight. We had Impact Tag Team Championship belts, we had the IWGP US belt, and then, of course, all the AEW belts. So we had 3 different promotion championships represented. And one thing, actually, we'll talk about it when we get to the end of the show. So let's introduce the show. You're listening and watching to the That's Wrestling podcast. Tonight we are covering AEW Dynamite from February 10th, 2021. I can't believe it's 2021. It's insane. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, you can send those to eric@thatswrestling.com. We also do this show live, so if you're listening to this as a podcast, you can check out the links in the show notes to either our Twitch or YouTube, because we do the show live over there. So pick your platform of choice. Head over to your favorite podcast app and give us a review. And if you want to come hang out with our in our Discord, you can check out the link for that as well. And back again, I have Caleb Johnson. How's it going, man? You actually have internet this week.
Yes, I do. We've had some variables here in the last few weeks, but internet's up. Things are well. I have my final exam for training tomorrow. So, but you know what? Studying, forget about it. I'd rather review some AEW Dynamite. Very excited to talk about this show. Doing well, thank you.
So when do you actually move again?
I move on the 9th of March, Tuesday.
Okay, so you got a month to go.
Yes, I do. And then the next couple weeks after that will probably be a little hairy. I know we talked about that, but hopefully I'll get back on the train after a few weeks.
All right, so let's talk about this show. We start off the show with Joey Janela versus Darby Allin for the TNT Championship right out of the gate. This match, you think they would kill each other, but no, both of them survived and they had a wrestling match. They didn't do anything completely insane. We had lockups to start. Janela hits a back elbow in the corner out of a corner break. It just really didn't phase Darby much. He hits a springboard arm drag that he does, and basically the most dangerous spots are right here where Janela gave Darby a facebuster on the apron, and then he hit a diving elbow. Some big strikes from Janela. Janela takes Darby's back on the ground and actually uses Darby's own necklace across his face. Nobody on commentary picked that up. I believe Excalibur said he was fishhooking him, but he was actually using Darby's own necklace. Janela hits some heavy knees to the face. Darby hits a shotgun dropkick in the corner, and Darby goes to work on Janela's arm. He hits a massive dive, sending Janela into the briefcase, and we are out of very dangerous spots. That was the three. That was it. 2 dives and a facebuster on the apron. Janela turned a springboard coffin drop into a German suplex. That looked really nice. He also hit like a super high speed pile driver for a 2 count, and Darby hit a flip over stunner at one point for a 2. Darby hit a avalanche code red, and then he came back with the coffin drop and got the 3 count. And I wrote right here, hey, both of them are still alive.
Yeah, both still alive. And like you said, this was not the absolute garbage wrestling fest that I expected. I hate to say that, but the 2 guys who are not necessarily known for their, or at least not given enough credit, let's say, for their actual, traditional wrestling ability. Darby tends to do stuff that looks like he's going to die, and Janela tends to do a little bit of that, CZW style, PWG stuff. So this was actually a really surprisingly good wrestling match from these 2 guys. And I also tell you what, I like that they're protecting the coffin drop. I thought that was kind of neat. For a second, I actually thought the match was going to go a little longer, and I was enjoying it. So I'm like, yeah, all right, and I fully expected him to kick out, and he didn't. I was like, perfect. Like, that's ideal for me because they're going to protect that finisher. And I'll tell you this, my one big note about this match, this should have happened before the Brian Cage match. Like, this is the kind of thing we needed for Darby to be like, hey, look, he's taking on challengers. He's defeating challengers. Now we bring in this big dude, right? So for him to face Bad Boy after defeating Brian Cage, I was like almost a little less impressed. And at one point, the commentators were talking about, commentary team was talking about the size advantage of Joey Janela. I'm like, what do you mean size advantage? Like, he just fought Brian Cage. Like, this guy's slightly bigger than him around the midsection, whatever. You know what I mean? So I thought that was a little wonky. I would have liked to see the order of these matches flip. But it is nice to see Darby just defending the title.
Yeah, I hope this becomes whenever they figure out what the heck's going on after the Sting match, I guess. Hopefully Darby kind of breaks off and continues doing more defenses of the TNT Championship as time goes on. So I'm guessing we're probably going to see a Ricky Starks Darby Allin match for the title. That's kind of they've been feuding on and off for like 6-7 months at this point, so right. Then now we can have one for the title, I guess. But yeah,
I would like to see that at Revolution.
Yeah, but we have the Sting match, Sting Darby Allin Street Fight is at Revolution.
Never mind.
They run down the car.
My sense of time in this program has completely gone out the window.
Right.
When it comes to the Darby Sting Team Taz, like, I don't even know where we are anymore.
Yeah. They run down the card for the night. Then we have a Moxley promo. He's talking about how Kenta has been calling him out for months, talking trash, looking like a dork carrying the briefcase around. Kenta, he says Kenta realizes that if he wants this, and he brings up the IWGP US title belt, if he wants this, he has to meet me at the end of the month, and it's I'm going to drop him on his head. But tonight, two guys team up with the sole purpose of trying to take me off the board. In a few weeks, it's going to be a sanctioned match, but tonight's just for fun.
Yep, I like this from Moxley. I think the IWGP US title is my favorite title I've ever seen on red leather. I did not like the original Universal title from WWE, and I didn't necessarily love the original TNT championship design that's now been retired with Brody Jr. So that's actually a decent looking belt on red. I like it, and it also helps that it's the US title. So obviously they're going to kind of do something a little bit garish in a weird sense, but that belt is beautiful. Otherwise, great. I mean, pretty standard promo for Moxley, but he's always good.
Yeah, New Japan has some of the best looking belts. I like all their belts. They look really good.
Mm-hmm. Their Intercontinental belt.
Yep. Their heavyweight belt is awesome too.
It is, but Intercontinental is my favorite. I'll tell you that right now. And if I were to ever buy an actual, $500 replica belt, which I don't have any of right now, it'd be the Intercontinental one.
The IWGP Intercontinental? Yeah.
You know what? Sorry, not to go totally crazy, but the WWE white Intercontinental belt was pretty decent too. I really liked that one when Miz had a run with it a few years ago when they were feuding with Daniel Bryan and stuff. I like that Intercontinental belt.
Let's see. I believe after a commercial break, a camera is following Sammy. Sammy goes into the inner circle's room and kicks everybody out except the cameraman, specifically addressing the cameraman stays. So it's just Sammy and MJF. Sammy says he saw what happened last week and says that MJF, you're trying to take over the inner circle. MJF says that I thought you were just jealous when I came in, and MJF takes his phone out of his pocket, sets it on the table, and then he says, but I realized that you actually hate Chris Jericho. And then MJF says, Sammy, you're actually the one who wants to take over the inner circle. And Sammy replies sarcastically, really? I hate Chris Jericho? I want to take over the inner circle? Is that what you want me to say? And MJF says, yeah, that's actually what I want you to say. He picks up the phone and Sammy says, what, you were recording me? He grabs the phone, throws it against the wall, punches MJF in the gut, and he leaves MJF rolling around on the floor. And this one, I can't really figure out what MJF's thinking was here, because it's already been established that Jericho watches the show, and it was established that there was a cameraman right there. So what was the point of MJF either bothering with the recording anyways, or was he just, he wasn't even actually recording it and he was just making it look like he was, so Sammy would punch him? I don't know.
That's what I thought as well, because when he took out his phone out of his pocket, it was so obvious. And then well, I should say, it's not even in anyone's defense. It's more like it was actually kind of stupid, I thought, because it's kind of a trope if you've ever seen TV or movies ever, where they say the thing in a different context. You know what I mean? It was like a very obvious setup to be like, I hate Chris Jericho. Is that what you want me to say? I'm like, come on. It was kind of cheesy a little bit, but it also subverted my expectations because I totally thought that's where they were going with the phone. And then Sammy grabs the phone. He's like, absolutely not. And he just destroys it. He threw that phone. That phone, if that was a real phone and not a prop phone, that phone is dead now because it's smashed against the wall. And I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, the camera situation, it's like they could have just cut up camera clips. You know what I mean? If MJF was going to get a hold of this footage, cut it up and show it to Chris Jericho, look, he really wants to take over the inner circle. The camera was there anyway. So you raise a good point. But overall, I actually really like their acting, and I like Sammy a lot. If this really is headed to that babyface turn, which we'll get there in a few minutes, but yeah, I actually think that Sammy brings some really good fire. And I expect him just to break the phone, but then he punched MJF in the ribs, and I was like, yeah, get him. So I can definitely root for him in this feud.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like I said, it's been established that Jericho watches the show. So even if MJF gave him a fake cut of it, it only lasts until next week because Jericho would have rewatched the show and this was on the show, so he would have seen it. So,
right.
I'm not sure. I guess we'll see. Next up, we had Cody Rhodes and Lee Johnson versus Peter Avalon and Cesar Benoni. And this match was fine. It was basically a showcase for Lee Johnson, who has lost 29 matches in a row. He was 0 for 29. And Cody stomps on Avalon a little bit. Lee gets the tag in. Lee reverses momentum for a little bit. Cody they got the heat on Cody for quite a while. Avalon and Bononi did. They cut something out of the match during the commercial because they ended picture in picture about halfway through the commercial break. And then when they came back, Lee gets a hot tag, takes out Avalon, hits this awesome flip corkscrew dive onto Bononi. But then Bononi tries to get involved without a tag, and Cody comes in to cut him off. He and Cody end up fighting to the outside, but back in the ring, Lee rolls up Avalon for the pin, and he gets his first victory. And then post-match, Tony is up on the stage, and he asks Lee how it feels to get his first win. He basically thanks all of his trainers, hilariously leaving out QT Marshall. And if you pay attention, QT was like, what the hell? He just because he mentioned Cody. He even mentioned Brandy. And then he says that the Rhodes family is my family. And QT Marshall was left out of the acceptance speech, if you will. So are we going to be trainer versus student feud coming up here because he left him off?
I think that's a kind of a cute little story. That's a good way to go with it. If they do, it kind of gives them a little bit of a showcase for Lee Johnson. I think they gave him this moment for a reason. They believe in the guy. So I think that would be a fun little feud, honestly. But yeah, it was funny that he acknowledged everybody else, which was pretty funny. Also, is Cesar Benoni, has he been on Dynamite before or just Dark?
Just Dark, I believe.
That's what I thought. I don't know why, but he appears smaller in his match graphics. And then I saw him in the ring and was like, that guy, he's a monster. He's a big, jacked dude. He kind of reminds me of I don't know if you remember Dominic Dijakovic, well, also known as Dijak back in the Indies, but he's with NXT. I think he's with NXT. I don't know where he's been forever.
Yeah, he's with NXT.
Similar build, just real lanky, long legs, big guy. And he feels like he could go places as well.
Yeah, he's 6'6", 255.
Yo, so not an ounce of fat on that dude. He's huge. Dude.
Oh, he was actually in NXT for the past 5 years until he was released in April.
I don't recognize him at all.
He had his first televised victory May 31st. I'm guessing this is 2017 against Cien Almos.
Wow. Well, I've heard of one of those guys.
Alrighty. All right. So, I mean, this match was fine. The promo was a little scatterbrained, I guess.
You know what? I actually liked the promo in terms of content, but I think he was a little gassed. I think he was a little out of breath or something because it came through very faint at first. And I was like, what? So the first couple words he said, I couldn't quite hear. But I just think maybe, I don't know if they knew they were going to do a promo or maybe he just kind of had to come up with it. I didn't mind it for sure. But also in kayfabe, he's also not like this experience. This was his first win. You know what I mean? So it kind of, to me, I was like, right, he doesn't know what he's going to say. He decides to get interviewed after his first win. So he just kind of blurts out something, you know? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like if you ever watch post-fight interviews with sometimes in MMA, like sometimes you get a Conor McGregor or somebody who gets up there and gives you like a real promo. And then sometimes you just get dudes who are like, I want to thank my Lord and Savior and my family, and I'm calling out so-and-so. You know what I mean? Like, it's never really that great.
Thank you, God, for letting me beat the crap out of this guy.
That's a little ironic.
All right, next up, we had Dasha backstage with the Bucks talking about them not winning the Battle Royale last week. The Good Brothers interrupt, and, of course, they pimped the match on Impact pay-per-view this weekend. Nick talks about how the Good Brothers caused him to get tossed out of the match, and they get all mad about this. The Good Brothers, though, convinced that the Young Bucks actually have a problem with Santana and Ortiz because they're the ones who eliminated him. And Matt is all fired up at this point and says that he wants to defend the titles before Revolution and says he wants it against Santana or Ortiz. So the Good Brothers kind of playing the Bucks like a fiddle here and completely diverting attention. And this promo was like a lot of talking over each other and a lot of content flying out of all four of them. So yeah, it was a lot to follow, but really in the end, in short, the Good Brothers are completely gaslighting the Bucks here.
Yes, absolutely. And for that reason, I liked this promo. I thought it was fun. And there was a moment at the end where they tried to too sweet. And I think Matt tries to get him to do it off camera because I think they're going to get cease and desisted. So he's like, well, let's go do it over there. You know, and they're like, just too sweet me. And finally Nick's like, fine, I'll too sweet you. But I actually like where this is going with them for sure. But like you said, they're definitely gaslighting him. And there was a lot of talking over one another. But I don't mind that as long as I get the idea, because I think we sometimes get used to these very sterilized promos in WWE, where I think you mentioned before, actually last week, how people will tend to like wait for the other person to diss them and then like, oh, well, you know, and come back with these weird words that only an SAT would ever use. So I think that I actually didn't mind it so much here, but sometimes it's tough to tell what's going on. So I liked it. I like the direction it's going. I'm a big fan of the Good Brothers in this context. Like, you know, in the role that they're in right now, I think it's pretty good. So good promo.
Yeah, we talked about that. The chaos of some of these promos make it feel a lot more real. We called out the show where they went over to Kenny's place and saw the painting of Don Callis and Kenny, and how that promo went down with Don and the Young Bucks. Very similar style where they would interrupt each other and talk over each other because, you know, that's how people argue in real life, and it definitely adds a little bit more realism. But yep, the Good Brother is definitely kind of pulling the wool over the eyes here, and Young Bucks need to turn this around quickly because they are starting to look like total dorks, and they have been kind of lost they've been lost in direction since before they won the titles. And it's just continuing at this point, and they need to plant their feet somewhere and get to it, because the shine is just worn off the Bucks at this point.
I don't know. I totally agree with everything you said up until the shine. I think that they still got a little bit to them. I think that because of who they are, like, and I fought the opposite of this before, and I've said, like, hey, you need to be able to, you know, show your audience who the stars are. You need to be able to say, like, hey, these are my guys, these you know, are my top people, and not just expect people to know you if from New Japan or from, you know, other companies that are non-WWE. But I will say at this point, I believe that enough of the audience understands the Bucks, who they are, and what their role within the company is, to the point where they can do a little bit of this stuff and look a little stupid or take a loss here and there and still have enough shine because of their reputation and because of who they are. I think that they've earned some of that at this point. But I do agree that they need to be turning this around very soon because they have been very unclear on the heel or face side of things since before the FTR match, as you mentioned. They've been even more unclear when they super kicked, Varsity Blondes, but then also, I think took kicks from the Lucha Bros, and then, but now they're, like you said, it's like, for me, they're heels right now, but they're also having a lot of disagreements with the Good Brothers for cheating. So I'm like, yeah, we need some clarification. We need it soon. But the problem with that is that now, like, I'm really invested in this story either way. Like, it's almost like that would make it better, but I'm still very interested in the Good Brothers, Kenny Omega, Bullet Club thing. So, yeah, that's just a detail that they should clarify, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll see how it continues to play out. Next up, we had, coming back from commercial, Dasha once again. She catches up with Hangman Page, and Dasha asks if the win last week, does that mean he might tag up with Matt Hardy once again? And Hangman basically gets cut off right away by Matt Hardy coming in. He says, hey, let's, go. Our win last week was pretty awesome. Hey, why don't we go out for a drink? I rented out a bar, so it'll be just the two of them. And the tab is on him. And Hangman's like, everything's on you? Yeah, let me go get my stuff. And Hardy departs, and Hangman starts heading back towards his stuff, and he runs into the entire Dark Order. The Dark Order, a few of them play it off like they don't even know him. They're like, Hangman, right? and just this is the thing where you like half ghost somebody even though full well. He says, oh hi guys, I'm just heading out to the bar with Matt. Sorry, I was the only one invited. And Silver's like, yeah, okay, catch you on the flip. And then Silver's like beats himself. Why did I say that? That was so stupid. And he's like hitting himself in the face with it. And Hangman walks on through. Very interesting segment from two ends. One, we have here Matt Hardy getting Hangman to go out to the bar with him, but then Hangman running into the Dark Order, and Hangman seems conflicted about his relationship with the Dark Order. I don't think they had any interaction on BTE this week. I don't remember any, but last week we had the sleepover, the little fort that they had, and then the thing that went down with Anna Jay and Hangman. So Hangman's kind of conflicted about his relationship with Dark Order. It seems like he might be slightly regretting how things went down between him and the Dark Order. So I'm curious how this plays out. Do you think eventually how this all plays out with Hangman and the Dark Order is that Hangman eventually agrees to be the leader of the Dark Order?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. And I think it'll come as a result of Matt Hardy continuously kicking Adam Page to the curb and stealing his wins, and eventually potentially even just completely beating him down at some point. Perhaps even Hangman gets a TNT title shot, loses, I don't know, something happens to cause him to think, hey, why am I under contract with this idiot, right? So beat down, to the rescue, John Silver leading the way, Alex Reynolds beside him, and the whole Dark Order coming out to save Hangman, because the idea is Hangman has turned them down, but they continuously love this guy, you know what I mean? And it's like their unconditional friendship wins through. Like, to your point on BTE, Anna Jay saying, you broke these guys' hearts, like they love you, you know what I mean? And again, even though we all know that they're babyface at this point, the Dark Order that is, they really were a heel stable before the passing of Brody Lee. So, I mean, what do they need? They need a new leader, but they also need an obvious, like, we are face turn. You know what I mean? Because it was more of a subtle face turn, especially during the tribute show, right? Where they won all their matches, they celebrated. And this is one of those times when kayfabe just it blurs completely together at this point. So they need that moment too. So Hangman needs to need a friend because he has no friends, and they will save him. And eventually he'll say, I have to repay, what your guys' friendship essentially. And yeah, I think he goes on a decent run as the leader of the Dark Order.
And I am remembering actually on BTE, everybody gave Valentine's to Wardlow, except for Five. Five left one in Hangman's dressing room, but Hangman never got it because Matt Hardy intercepted it and tore it up and threw it away. So Matt Hardy intercepting that there. So Five, who saw what happened with Anna Jay and Hangman during that, still, and I think the rest of them are pretending that he doesn't exist, even though that they really do want him back.
To your point about this segment, Hangman was also clearly awkward. It wasn't just like, hey guys, I'll see you later. Like, I'm going to the bar with Matt. And they were all like, all right, fine. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't that tone. As soon as he turned around, he was like, oh, hey, sorry, I gotta leave, and like he was just as awkward as they were in that weird little interaction. So he obviously is feeling some sort of way about what went down between them. And I don't think they'll draw this one out too long. I think he'll be with Matt another couple weeks, and maybe at Revolution, right around that time, after Revolution, maybe we'll see them come in. The way I'd like it, like I said, is for them to run in and save him from a beatdown or something.
And once again, Hangman shows that he is still the best actor on AEW.
Yes, still the most talented guy.
Next up, we had a squash match of Pac versus Ryan Nemeth. That is basically exactly what it was. Pac just beat the crap out of him. Nemeth got like 2 moves of offense in, but Pac beat him up for like 5 minutes straight, hits the Black Arrow, puts on the Brutalizer, and that's all it took. And he also took a while to let it go after the bell. That was about it.
So I don't know if it took him a while to release it after the bell, or if the ref like legitimately didn't notice him tapping, because Pac has this Brutalizer on, and Nemeth's arm is back here, and he's tapping on Pac's back, but the referee was like here. You know what I mean?
That happened too.
Right. So he's tapping immediately as soon as his Brutalizer's on, and Pac's holding it in, and then I'm waiting, like, what's going on? And then there was a solid like 2 seconds, and then it was, oh, ding, 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 he signals for the bell. So I was like, and then he kept it on anyway. But I was thinking that ref completely missed that part of the finish.
Yeah, he missed the actual tap, but took the verbal submission because there's obviously verbal as well.
Right. The only other thought I had was maybe, I know Pac has submitted guys before like that, like actual tap out. And he's also like put them to sleep so they don't really tap out, but they're completely out and the ref calls for the bell at that point. Right. So I thought maybe the ref just got confused for a second, thought that he was going to like pass out, but it was a submission victory. So yeah, just a small detail. But like you said, he just completely squashed him at this point. And as a side note to this match, have you seen Dolph Ziggler's new profile photo?
No, but I heard it was funny.
It's just a screenshot from this match, a close-up of his brother, just like, getting punched in the face. And he just put hashtag new profile pic. It was pretty funny.
Then we had a short review of the wedding segment from last week, cut in with Miro talking about how Charles betrayed him, but he's also pissed off at Orange Cassidy as well. And then at the end, they cut to Chuck and Orange Cassidy on a sofa drinking some champagne, and Orange Cassidy is like, what did they think was going to happen? And Chuck said, of course Orange Cassidy is going to pop out of the cake. So this feud continues.
I was just about to say, I know we mentioned the Sting program earlier, which we'll talk about. And again, But yeah, speaking of feuds that have been going on for far too long, I'm sad because I love everyone in this. Like, I really like Kip. Kip has grown on me a lot. So when AEW started, I was like meh on Kip. I really was. He's grown on me a lot. I like Penelope a lot. I think whenever she gets screen time, she's pretty funny. I thought she was good in the wedding segment. I like Miro a ton. I think he's wasted here, but I like him. I like all the best friends. Like, I'm just like, you would have thought that if I put all these people together, they would have done something more, I don't even want to say more entertaining, but just better, I guess. But I think partially it's not their fault. It's just not enough actual matches, too many goofy segments. It's gone on too long, and they still haven't had like what would be a blow off. You know what I mean? I feel like this could have been executed a lot better, despite the fact that everyone in here entertains me. Apparently there's more than just talent that goes into the segment, because the booking here, to the feud, because the booking here has just gone on way too long, and I'm losing interest. I don't want to, just like, this segment did nothing for me, because it was really just a recap and then a funny little, like, of course Orange Cassidy pops out of a cake, and like, when this was done, I was glad.
Yeah, I think with Trent getting injured, that obviously threw a wrench into what they were planning on doing, and now I think they might be a little lost in where they're going to go with it. I mean, Trent's going to be out for at least another 5 months because he had a torn pec, so I mean, that's at least a 6-month recovery type of deal. So I don't know what they're going to do. I'm assuming we're probably just going to get the tag team match of Kip and Miro versus Orange Cassidy and Chuck. I don't know what type of stipulation we might see on that. I'm assuming it's going to be some sort of blow-off stipulation, but I'm guessing we're going to have Orange Cassidy and Miro first, and then the tag team. I guess we'll see how it plays out, but yeah. As far as Kip goes, Kip was like a baller to me on the second Dynamite, but actually he was on the second Dark. Because I was there and he broke his finger in the middle of the match and then kept going. So like, you could tell that he broke his finger early on in the match because it wasn't it was actually in a 3-way, I think. I think it was with Sonny Kiss and one other person and Kip Sabian. And like, I remember Aubrey was the ref, and she was constantly talking to him and keeping the other guys away while the doctor looked in on him, and they quickly kind of splinted. They like threw on a quick splint within like a minute, and he was like pulling on it, trying to get it back. I think it might have been a dislocation or a broken, but he's like trying to pull it back into place. Yeah, he was pretty badass trying to continue on in that match. Let's see. So after that, we have a segment right before the match of Jericho and MJF versus the Acclaimed. Dasha is backstage, and it's Jericho and Jake Hager. And Dasha's like, where's the rest of the inner circle? And Jericho says, MJF will be here for our match. And in comes Santana Ortiz. They say they found MJF in the trainer's room, and he comes in and he's all taped up, saying that Sammy did this to him. Jericho's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, it doesn't matter. We have a match now. We'll have to deal with this later. And then I wrote, still not sure what MJF is thinking, because there was a cameraman right there that caught the whole thing. So don't know where this is going to go.
So let me say this, though. In that original segment with the two of them, I don't think MJF ever like admits that he's trying to do anything nefarious, right? Like, he doesn't say like, I'm trying to break up the inner circle and I'm going to blame it on you. Like, he just kind of was suspicious and weird, I think.
Right.
And yeah. So, I mean, and also it's true that whether he was recording or not, Sammy grabbed his phone, broke his phone, and then punched him in the ribs. So, like,
right.
Yeah, you're right. Jericho does watch the show, but also, like, it still looks a little like, if you maybe cut a little bit out of the recording or the whatever, like, you don't have to edit it too much to just be like, hey, Sammy punched me in the ribs. Like, and that, because that's true, so. But yeah, he was all taped up like a baby. When he came out there, I was like, oh, boo-hoo. And
Right.
you know what? I felt like a total mark in that moment. But if anyone's going to make me a mark, it's going to be MJF. And he came out like that. And I was just like, you little whiner.
Yeah.
Like, he made me so mad when he was all bandaged up.
Yeah, he's definitely playing it up a bit. Definitely over-exaggerating. So that's what I thought was funny about that. So we have Jericho and MJF versus the Acclaim. MJF rolls out of the ring immediately after locking up. I also like, why'd they book a heel versus heel match? Usually don't see that very often.
I don't know. That's a good question. I guess they wanted the screen time for the Acclaim. That's what I'm going to guess.
I guess, but it made no sense. So I'm like,
no, you're 100% right.
Who am I supposed to be cheering for here? Jericho just ends up tagging in right there. The Acclaim actually beat on him. MJF tagged in. The Acclaim beat on him. But Jericho turns it around and they start to work over Caster. Jericho throws Caster to the outside and pulls the ref, the Inner Circle, who are on the outside, beat on Caster on the floor. They get the heat on Caster for a while. Bowens eventually gets a hot tag, takes out everybody. Santana tries to create a distraction, but when he does, Jericho goes for the lion salt, and Caster actually hits Jericho with the boombox for a close 2 count. I thought they might have stolen the show right there. And then we get some more distractions. Jake pushes Caster off the top rope behind the ref's back. Jericho hits the Judas effect, and that is all she wrote. So as far as the match, it was fine, but heel versus heel didn't really give me much to cheer for.
Right. Agreed. Although I have to admit that I'm probably cheering for Chris Jericho because the Acclaimed are still rapping. So I have to give my support to Chris Jericho. That said, like, let me just throw this out there because I know I've talked about the Acclaimed a little bit. Like, I don't mind the gimmick. I just don't want them to do it every time because, like, he's not a bad rapper. Like, I mean, he's not like, I wouldn't go buy a whole album, but for what his purpose is and just doing it in a promo or whatever, like, I don't mind. And I think some of the lyrics are kind of witty. Like, I can't remember what some of them were last night, but a couple of them, like a couple of his lines, I was like, all right, that's a funny little diss. Like, I thought that was funny, but I just don't want them doing it every single entrance. That part is what wears on me. And especially if they're doing an entrance with the rap and then maybe later in the show doing a video package with more rap songs, like I can't take that much rap. But I do like their, like, the Acclaimed have arrived thing. I think that's pretty cool. But yeah.
Daxter's in the chat says, hey, they wanted someone to attack MJF's injured ribs. I'm like, well, you don't really need a heel for that. And I'm not going to feel sorry for MJF. So if a babyface was kicking him in the ribs, I'd be cheering for it.
You would, but you know what? That's not a bad point there, Daxers. That's a good point. Yeah, because I mean, if Hangman Page came out, well, I want Hangman Page to be Stone Cold Steve Austin, so he can do it if he wants. But I guess if a pure white meat babyface came out and just starts immediately attacking his ribs, you kind of get a question mark also. That's a good logical reason.
Then as the Inner Circle is celebrating, Sammy's music hits. He walks out with a mic and he gets into the ring with everybody, and Jericho says, what the hell is your problem? You punched Max and broke his phone? And Sammy says, I told you back on December 9th, if one more thing happened with him, I'm done. So I'm telling you now, I'm done. MJF turns away from all of the Inner Circle, but you still see it on camera, and he is smiling about this whole thing. And then Sammy says, I'm done. I quit the Inner Circle. He walks out. He walks up the ramp, turns towards the heel tunnel, takes like one step, turns, and goes down the babyface tunnel.
Yep. Yeah, I watched it like 2 or 3 times over, and it seemed like when he was walking, he gets out the ring, and he's kind of walking on an angle toward the heel tunnel, and then kind of goes mid, like dead center, and just does a quick, like that, and then immediately goes babyface. And I don't know if you heard, but they popped for that. There was like a crowd reaction as he stood there, he looked, and then he just kind of walks. And as soon as he walked that way, you actually can hear the crowd be like, ah! Like so happy.
Well, so, it was a taped show, so there was no live fans there. So that was piped in sound.
The wrestlers,
but as far as AEW is concerned, that's a cheer moment.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Someone cheered. I don't know who that was down there. Maybe some of their dark wrestlers, but people were cheering when he went down that tunnel.
We go to commercial there. When coming back, Alex Marvez is chasing down Sammy, who is leaving the building. He's got all of his bags with him, and Alex asks, "Why are you quitting the Inner Circle?" And Sammy says, "It doesn't really matter, and I just need to get away from this place and regroup." And he walks off.
Yeah, the classic "I'm going to return in a big babyface" moment. When he says, I just need to think or whatever. And that's like, I'm going to go home and rethink my life from Attack of the Clones. That's what he's really saying is, I want to go home and rethink my life. And when he does, he'll inevitably come back, maybe even, whoa, hey, let me just throw this idea out at you. What do you think about Sammy as the leader of the Dark Order? Or do they need a big man?
I think they need a big man.
Okay. All right, that's fair. I love to see that though. I mean, Sammy come out in purple and all. I'd like that.
I don't think Sammy has the charisma needed to have that kind of leadership level. I think he has a different type of charisma that I don't think lends it to being a leader.
I think that's a good point.
I think it's more either as a follower or as a lone wolf.
Yes, I think in a group he's a follower. Yeah, that's a good point. And as a lone wolf, though, I mean, this guy's going to come back and be full babyface flipping mode. Just don't come back with the panda head. He was a babyface on the indies with this big stuffed panda hair hat, and it was stupid. So as long as he comes back just full of fire, classic babyface, maybe even go a little bit more of the Spanish direction, right? What do they call him? The Spanish God.
The Spanish God.
He could turn the Spanish God into a babyface gimmick. I mean, I know that kind of sounds heel because it's like, oh, look at my physique and everything, but he could turn Spanish God into a face gimmick and I'd be happy.
Next up, we have Matt Hardy and Hangman Page are at the bar getting wasted. Well, Hangman is. Hardy pours some shots, and Hardy actually pours his out and fakes doing the shot. So, Hardy basically tells him, hey, I think you're the best wrestler in AEW and you can be AEW champion. And he pulls out a contract from his jacket and says, look, if you join me, I'll make you millions, and just for a small fee of 30%. But it doesn't matter because you're going to be making so much money. It's not gonna matter. And then he hands it over, and Hardy starts addressing the camera, saying that he wants you guys. I wanted you guys here in case Hangman gets mad when he sobers up. Though I think if you sign a contract while drunk, doesn't that kind of nullify the contract, anyways? But if you were looking in the background, Hangman takes the papers and he tosses the ones that Matt Hardy gave him. He pulls out a roll of his own and signs those. And then Matt Hardy also signs those. So what has Hangman pulled over on Matt Hardy?
I didn't notice that at all.
Oh, you thought he actually signed the contract of Matt Hardy?
Yes.
Oh no, he tossed those and pulled out his own.
Oh, I'm thrilled.
This is why I told you this is the small details. Yeah, you had to be watching. Hardy pulled everybody's attention, but Hangman actually was the one you should have been watching.
Yep. I actually was looking at Matt Hardy like as total obvious. And you know what? When I was younger in my teen years, I wanted to be a magician. I know that's big nerd over here. Not like full-time professional, but like I'm always like learning card tricks and stuff. And it's all about misdirection. It always is, because you're out here with the cards trying to show them something. Meanwhile, you're doing something with your other hand or your whatever. And I fell for the old gimmick because Matt Hardy went like this in the camera. And I was just looking at him the whole time like, what's going on, Matt? I didn't even see that in the background.
Yeah. So curious what Hangman pulled over on Matt Hardy here. Maybe he just leaped himself of the $12 that he owes Private Party.
I forgot he still owes them money. That would be honestly the funniest thing if they realized that's what it was, and all it says is just like, I don't owe you $12 anymore.
Yeah.
And then they just beat him down for the sake of $12.
Right. So that was it. I'm curious. So that continues on. We'll see how this one turns out.
That's awesome. I'm thrilled.
All right. Now I'm curious what you had for notes that you didn't notice that part.
No, I didn't notice that at all. I was just like, well, I guess he's on board. Sounds good. So, which is why actually earlier I kind of alluded to them sticking together for a little while, because it sure seemed like he was under contract.
All right. Next up, Sting is on the stage. Tony is on the stage. He calls out Sting, asks what's on Sting's mind before he can even say anything. Taz up on the big screen. He's in a car with Powerhouse Hobbs. He says they're going on a little trip and we have a special guest that's going along with us. They pan out and show that Starks and Cage have beaten up Darby Allin, stuffed him in a body bag, and they hop in the car and they drive off, dragging Darby Allin in the body bag behind the car through the parking lot.
Yes, and then Sting immediately takes his baseball bat and starts huffing down the face tunnel. Let me tell you what. This is just one little thing that bothered me. Like, Sting should have gotten out of the ring and gone out that perfect little exit to the parking lot that leads, or whatever lot that is, that's open air from Daly's place. You can get off the stage, walk past the chairs, the same place where FTR drives their truck up there, and it's going to be quicker. He walked down the tunnel. I was like, dude, they're going to be so far away in their car by the time you follow them on foot with your baseball bat. Like, I don't know why, but that drove me up a wall. I was like, go get in a car.
Right. Somebody on another podcast said, what, was Sting going to run back there and get into his Stingmobile or something? Like, what does he expect to do on foot to do anything? What? He can't do anything at this point. They're in a car and I've already driven off.
Right. I fully expected him to go get in a car. So I was like, hey, look, there's a spot for a car over there. Maybe you parked over there for some reason. You know what I mean? But when he walked down the tunnel, I was like, where are you going?
Oh, I can't wait for this to be over.
Please. But you know what? Hey, on the bright side, Sting didn't say anything today. He just got to have a cool entrance and then a cool exit. So fine by me.
All right. Alex Marvez, being the reporter that he is, he hunts down Kenny Omega and finds him playing golf, and he interrupts him right in the middle of his backswing, trying to get out of a sand trap. And Omega tells him to shut up for a moment while he hits out of the bunker, and it's a pretty bad shot, but Marvez pulls his attention immediately after he hits it. So if you're watching in the background, the caddy and Dawn chase down the golf ball, and the caddy's like kicking it way away so it's gone, and Dawn then walks over to the hole and drops the golf ball into the hole, and they're just waiting there until Kenny is done with his interview. Marvez asks, are you thinking, why are you teaming up with Kenta against Lance Archer? What are you thinking? And Lance Archer and Jon Moxley, shouldn't you be preparing for the match? And Omega says, why would I be doing that? What would I be doing? Should I be at home studying my opponent? No, I'm out here outside clearing my head. I forgot what it's like to lose, because I'm not going to lose tonight either. And then he turns and Don says, would you look at that? You got it in. You got another eagle. So they've been cheating the whole time, making Omega a better golfer than he actually is.
So let me say this, by the way. I don't know how much you know about golf, but an eagle, you're probably familiar, is 2 under par, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to guess this is like a par 4. So on his second shot, and depending on how far this green is, I mean, sometimes you could drive the green, I mean, right, depending on how long the hole is. But if you're not going to drive the green, maybe you get it high fairway, and then you want to put it on the green. So this is his at least his second shot, and he's doing it from the sand. So that wasn't a good shot to begin with. I thought that was a good detail that he's in the sand where you don't want to be, hits a bad shot onto the green. So like he didn't drive the green. So it's almost like just a little detail that's like, oh man, he's not good at golf. So when he said another eagle, I'm like, oh, they've been cheating this whole time. Because he's clearly not that great. So that cracked me up. I think him and Don Callis continue to make me laugh so much. And it's just a great partnership because he is like one of the greatest in the ring. You know what I mean? But like they're out playing golf and he's like just trash at golf. Also, I don't want to steal a gimmick or anything, but I'm not sure if you listen to the Cultaholic podcast much or follow their channel at all. But one of their guys, Jack the Jobber, is a super cool dude. And every time he talks about Marvez, he's like, my boy, Marvez, asking hard-hitting questions, out there getting that report. You know what I mean? He like plays it up. That is so true. When Marvez came out here on the golf course, I was losing it. I'm like, what is he doing out here on the golf course? Like when he's in the parking lot, I'm like, okay, he ran out there to get the story, but he's starting to show up in some weird places. And I love that for him, like as his gimmick, that he just shows up on the golf course in a suit with an AEW branded mic and camera crew. Like he is our investigative reporter. Good for you, Alex Marvez. And a good question too. Like, hey, you have a huge match tonight. What's going on? You know what I mean? So I'm really getting behind this Marvez gimmick.
And then after walking off, he's like, oh, can I get a ride back to the clubhouse? And they just leave him there. So now he's got to walk all the way. Because I'm sure they were like running around the golf course trying to find him, though. I don't know why they didn't get a golf cart of their own driving around to try to find him. But they just left him there.
With all that camera and mic equipment.
Right. Yeah, exactly. If I was like on the crew, I'd be like, screw this. We're getting a golf cart.
100%. I love Kenny, by the way. He's just so good in this role.
Yeah, this was this is the Kenny that we've been looking for, and it's working out good now. Next up, we had the first match in the AEW Women's number 1 contenders match: Thunder Rosa versus legit Layla Hirsch. Rosa had a little bit of an inset promo. Basically, she still wants to get a hold of Britt Baker after getting her face smashed into the turnbuckle in their match last week. Or was it the week before? Last week. Lots of mat work to start it off. A few strikes. Hirsch runs up the ropes and hits a Rana, and then a dive to the outside. And then like throughout the match, I'm like, what? I'm trying to like figure out what the tattoo on her leg is, and then I realized it smeared Rosa paint from her face. I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
I noticed that also in the Darby Allin match.
Yes,
there was some paint smeared on Bad Boy, and I was like, and honestly, my first thought was like, he needs a bath. What's wrong with that guy? Like, I thought maybe he was like dirty for some reason. And then I was like, oh, makes sense. Because actually Darby, we didn't mention it, but Darby had some pretty special paint on for a title match. He had a little bit extra like on the rib cage and on his face as well. A little bit different than normal. So yeah, definitely smeared on Bad Boy.
A little bit more professionally done looking to look a little more realistic of ribs and stuff.
It did, but you know what? I really like Darby's normal face paint because to me, it looks like he applies it himself, which he might, and that just is perfect for his character, I think. But you're right, yeah, this one was definitely more professional.
It matched more that, his tattoo on his arm. His arm is, just a bio, X-ray
like
basically.
An X-ray almost. Yeah.
Anyways, she hits the Rana, and that's where the face paint came from on her leg. Hirsch goes for an arm bar. Rosa scrambles to avoid it. Rosa hits a neck breaker across the top rope. They go back and forth with strikes during the commercial. It was nice to see that during the commercial they didn't just have a one-sided match and then whoever made a comeback after the commercial came back. They actually went back and forth through the commercial, so that was kind of nice. Rosa hits a bunch of strikes in the corner, including wrecking ball, double knees, and her really devastating basement drop kick that she gives everybody, and the one that she got Baker right in the face last week. Hirsch hits a suplex and a cross body for a 2 count, and then Hirsch goes for a moonsault. Rosa gets her knees up. Hirsch hits 2 wicked running knee strikes, and Hirsch ends up missing another moonsault, though. Rosa hits a kick to the face for a 2 count. Hirsch goes for the armbar, but Rosa picks her up and ends up hitting the Thunder Driver and getting the victory. So Rosa moves on in the tournament.
Yes, she does. Yeah, I thought this was a good match, actually. I'm, really looking forward to the remaining matches throughout the women's tournament here. I tell you what, dude, Thunder Rosa, whenever she hits the wrecking ball double knee, from the pendulum style, and then a drop kick, whenever she does that, especially either individually, but definitely together, I can't help but wince. I'm just and I can just imagine that cannot feel good. And I'm I am, just for reference, most of you have probably never even seen me stand up, but I am 6'4" and about 275, 280. And I'm that can't feel good. That woman is half my size. And I'm I would be in so much pain. That looks awful. So even I do a little bit of a wince when she hits those moves. Just looks like it's just pretty brutal, actually. But yeah, Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, I don't think they're done yet. I don't remember what the bracket looks like, but could they meet? I feel like they could meet in the bracket, and that actually could be cool because it's a little bit of hey, we're in the tournament, but it also serves to further our storyline. So if they meet in this tournament, I think I'd like that quite a bit.
Well, they're on the same side of the bracket, so.
Right.
So they could, if they keep winning, they'll run into each other.
I agree. I think that happens.
They mentioned the Japanese side of the bracket. At least round 1 is going to be on YouTube on Monday. So they're going to have 4 matches on Monday for the Japanese side of the bracket on YouTube. So I will probably watch that because I am curious how that is going to go down. I'm guessing they'll probably show the last 3 Japanese matches on Dynamite, I'm guessing. Maybe during the tape shows.
Think so too. Although I thought, honestly, I was thinking that specifically Maki Ito, I thought that her match was going to be on Dynamite. I don't know why, but I know we talked about her a little bit last week and how funny she is on Twitter. But I really kind of thought that they were maybe going to give her a little bit of actual, TNT screen time. So I was surprised that her first round match isn't happening on YouTube, but I mean, that's fine. No big deal.
And hilariously, did you see AEW put out the bracket with everybody's Twitter handle? Except for Maki Ito's. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yep, I won't say what it is. You can if you want. But yeah, her Twitter handle contains a profanity that they would bleep out on TNT. So, and TNT allows a couple things. So you can just take your guess here as to what it is. That was pretty funny. It looked funny too, though, because when you at them on Twitter, it's a blue hyperlink, and then it was just Maki Ito.
No, it was hashtag Maki Ito.
Oh, it was hashtagged. Okay.
Yeah, just not an app.
But it looked different. And I was that's why. But let me throw this out there. I know you just mentioned it real quick in relation to this match. I thought they did a lot better this week with the commercial breaks and coming back into matches. I don't know if you noticed, but it was not as, I don't know if maybe it was just bad luck last week or what, but this week, there were some turnarounds close to the break and whatnot, but it wasn't and we're back in, we hit some with it. It was literally within a couple seconds last week that they'd be back from commercial and the tide of the match changes. This week I thought was a lot better. During the commercial breaks in picture-in-picture, there was still some offense. For the most part, it seemed like there was some good offense on both sides. And when they came back, they weren't immediately transitioning into, who's in control in the match. So I did not notice quite as much this week.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad. Just going back, there wasn't a commercial in Joey Janela versus Darby Allin. There was in Cody Rhodes match, but they did get the heat on Cody. But that was they cut the commercial too as well. So it wasn't a full commercial picture in picture. And then Pac and Nemeth, there was no commercial break for that because it was just a squash. And there was a commercial in Jericho MJF's match, and that one they got the heat on Caster. So that one is a little close to the commercial, but again, not as egregious as they had been the previous week.
Right, I think that was the closest one that I noticed was that match.
Yeah, but here Hirsch and Rosa was just back and forth the entire time through the entire commercial break, so it wasn't like one person one person was on the wrong side of things or anything. So, and then the last match, there was commercials, but again, it was back and forth the entire time. So, there was action going on. So they have Tony is with Jungle Boy doing a little bit of a sit down interview. Jungle Boy's talking about the match that he had with Dax, that everybody was talking about it, and that match changed him a little bit, but he also tapped Dax out in front of the world and says, no, we didn't tell on you. We didn't want you to be suspended. We wanted you right here so we could look you in the eyes, but once we get the chance again, Dax, I'm going to make you my bitch.
That's just about the same enthusiasm with which Jungle Boy said it.
Yes.
Maybe even less so. I am going to say something, and the haters are going to come. This felt very WWE to me. This is like, my babyface feels kind of bland, and I love Jungle Boy. I love his character. I love him in the ring. I think where he needs the most work is exactly this right here. Mm-hmm. And I mean, how are you going to get better unless you practice? I understand. But like, he came off pretty bland. And then they were like, ooh, you know what we could do to spice this guy up? We could let him say a PG level swear word. You know what I mean? I'm like, and he said it with such lack of conviction that I'm just like, where's the fire here? Like, I've never heard, and I've heard a lot of, I don't swear personally, but I've heard my friends swear. Most of the time, they don't swear in like this kind of tone, like voice. And just all of a sudden say the B word. Like, no, they're saying it because they care about something. You know what I mean? And he felt like he was really flat here, and then just says, ooh, swear word. And I'm like, that is WWE to a T. Bland babyface that gets to say a swear word, and now, ooh, yeah, he's gonna get him. You know, like, I didn't really like this. And I don't want to give Jungle Boy all of the blame, but I think whoever came up with the scripting or the wording or whatever, I thought it was really unoriginal. And I think just having him, you know, that was like his most edgy moment. You know what I mean? I think that's silly. Like, and if you want this guy to be pure babyface that like kids get behind, because this guy is a gimmick that kids will get behind, then don't have him say that. Just like have him be a little bit more pure in a weird sense. So yeah, this didn't really work for me. And this was actually one of the parts of the show I was like, about, because overall really good show, but this part.
Yeah. It's also on, the producer of this segment, or however they structure their creative as far as, creating segments and whatnot. I'm sure there's got to be some sort of producer on set for this. I mean, this was a pre-tape, so they could do another take. I don't know how many takes they did, but this is where you need like a regular like TV director in there to be like, that was awful, let's get you into a better place and let's work on this. Do it again. Let's you know, send them off with the director and let them work on it and come back an hour later and film it. But yeah, this is we need to do that again. Let him take 6 takes. It will get better once he's not thinking about what he's saying. I think that's a big problem here. That's a big thing with a lot of actors in general, is they're thinking too much about what they're saying. And once they have it in their head and they're no longer actually thinking about what they're saying, then they can actually behave. They can deal with the behavior of how they deliver it and not the words that they're actually using. Right. And I think it would come off more natural. So this is like one of those things. It should have just been like, let's take another take of that. 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 And then, yeah, it could have been better.
I agree.
They run down the card for next week. It's going to be Matt and Mike Sydal. I don't think I've ever seen Mike Sydal ever. I didn't know he existed.
I don't know about this, because I felt like on this show there were a lot of moments where I was like, who's that? You know what I mean? Like Cesar Benoni. I was like, he's big, but I don't know who he is. And Lee Johnson a little bit less. Like him getting that win, I thought that was cool, you know, in furtherance of whatever storyline that's going with. And I actually totally expected Jade to get involved with that match, by the way, for Cody. I literally thought that entire tag team match was all about messing with Cody and furtherance of Shaq's storyline, but it wasn't. So, I mean, that was a pleasant surprise. But then there was also, I don't know, I'm trying to remember who else I'm thinking of, but it felt like on this show, there was just a lot of like, I don't know this guy, or what are you talking about? You know what I mean? And they said Matt Sydal, and I'm like, put Matt Sydal with any other guy I've ever heard of before. But it just feels like people are just popping up that I've never heard of, and I'd rather, I don't know. I just feel like Matt Sydal himself is not yet quite so established with AEW that I'm like, oh yeah, old hat. You know what I mean? Let's bring in a new guy for this one. You know, I'm kind of like, oh, I still want to see more of Matt Sydal all by himself, please. And they bring in Mike. I'm like, first of all, that just sounds, when you're used to Matt Sydal, and it just turns out this guy name is Mike Sydal. I'm like, he sounds like the kind of the less cool little brother. So I don't know how I feel about this. And even just that one interaction or that one announcement, I was like, that sounds stupid.
Yeah, kind of weird.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't
know. So we have them versus FTR. We have Private Party, Matt Hardy, and Hangman Page versus TH2 and Chaos Project. Not really looking forward to that one. Mostly it's going to be storyline between Hangman and Hardy, I'm guessing. So this match actually might be a really short one. Again, Sting on Dynamite to call out Team Taz. We need to announce this ahead of time, really? Like, they already say Sting's going to be on TV next week. Again.
This could be the same replayed next week on AEW 5-minute segment for the last 4-5 weeks. Like, Sting will be on TNT. Like, yes, I think it's the same exact graphic and clip. Sting will be on TV, and he'll be there with Tony Schiavone. It's not Sting will be in a match. It's not Sting will hunt down, the kidnappers. Like, it's just Sting. Sorry, I didn't mean to rant.
So, including last night, there have been 11 Dynamites with Sting on it in a row. At most, there should have been 3 total.
Yes.
The night he showed up, one saving of Darby Allin, and then one maybe like 2 weeks ago to bring up the street fight with Team Taz.
Correct. Agreed entirely.
Yeah.
He's been on the show too much.
So now I am kind of rooting for Team Taz to beat the crap out of him, and I just so he goes away.
Like, if it was, hey, Darby Allin's going to be in a TNT title match with Joey Janela, and Sting will be in his corner. Like,
right.
Even that's better. But it's literally been like, Sting will appear, and he'll be in the ring with Tony Schiavone. I'm like, come on, you got to change this up a little bit.
Then we have Serena Deeb versus Riho. This is going to be an interesting one. The former champion against the current NWA champion.
Yes.
I don't know how they're going to possibly book this without one of them taking damage here, because I don't think they're going to allow Serena Deeb to lose in the first round while she's the current NWA champion, and Riho is just coming back for the first time in like 10 months.
Yep, I absolutely, if I had to decide, I just don't think there's any, I really don't think there's any way. I don't think there's any way that Serena Deeb loses. They can't. Like, they just,
I don't think
that's,
so.
Oh, hey, by the way, you said 3 companies titles on the show? There were 4.
Was there a Joshi? Did somebody? Oh, what? Oh, the NWA. Yeah. Well, I guess she wasn't actually on the show. She was just in the card, but okay.
Oh, just the graphic.
It's just in a graphic, but yes.
I thought I saw the actual bell. All right, so you're right. 3 and a 4th company was shown.
Yeah.
He has no her picture.
Well, actually a 5th, because all the ladies on the Asian side of the bracket are Joshi Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking of your title about the title belts, but you're right. It was only a graphic with her with the NWA title.
She didn't appear in person.
Nope.
All right, so that was... and then the Bucks versus Santana Ortiz for the tag titles. So next week, it's going to be interesting, at least for those 2 matches, the women's match, and then Bucks defending their belts. So those 2 should be pretty interesting matches.
Agreed.
And then we had our main event of the evening, Kenny Omega and Kenta versus Jon Moxley and Lance Archer. Kenta is the first to come out. He comes out with the IWGP US Right to Challenge briefcase. And then in Omega's introduction, it was said that he was the greatest IWGP US champion of all time.
Possibly. It said the first and possibly greatest.
Then Moxley makes his way out to the ring with the IWGP US title belt over his shoulder. So we have that. So we have in this match, we have the current US title holder, the previous most title holder in Lance Archer, because Moxley beat Archer for the title that he's currently holding. We have the first ever US title holder in Kenny Omega, and we have the challenger to the title. So we have everybody in this match has history with that belt.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And there's only been is Juice and Cody are the only other two champions ever with that held the US belt. So there's only two champions missing from this line here.
I'm gonna find this real quick. That's so funny.
I'm pretty sure that's it. I'm pretty sure it was Omega to Cody to Juice to Moxley. Moxley had to vacate to Lance Archer back to Moxley. I think that's the title lineage. I could be wrong.
I'm going to double check it because I feel like there might be one more and I want to confirm if I'm correct.
I think Juice swapped it with somebody once and then got it back. And I forget who that person was.
So who did Kenny lose it to?
I thought he lost it to Cody.
Jay White.
Oh, Jay White was... I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I thought he was in there, but I wasn't sure. But otherwise, yes, you are correct. The majority, definitely the majority of U.S. title holders are in this match.
So Kenta clocks Moxley with the briefcase right away while Moxley had his back turned while he's taking off his jacket. Kenta then hits Lance Archer in the back with it, and he completely no-sells it. He turns around like, you little bastard. This was one of these spots of contention with, I forget who's, I think it might have been Alvarez and Meltzer were talking about this. Like, why would you have Kenta have so early in the match be shown as like a Miz type heel hitting somebody with the briefcase and the face turning around, no selling it? Like, wouldn't you want Kenta? Shouldn't you be building Kenta in this match? That's kind of the point of this match. So I thought that was kind of a little interesting. I didn't really see it that way. I thought it was fine because Lance Archer is like a foot and a half taller than Kenta and probably outweighs him by 150 pounds.
Yeah, no, I thought the same thing here. I was just like, oh, no, that makes sense. Kenta, like, he's small, but he's not tiny. And Lance Archer makes him look like a small dude.
Omega chop blocks Archer here, and then Moxley starts beating on Kenta. Omega makes the save and starts stomping on Moxley, and Kenta pushes Omega off of stomping on Moxley so he can stomp on Moxley. And it looks like they're going to have some problems. But then they start working together, and then they are pretty much thick as thieves for the rest of the match. Archer and Omega get sent to the outside. Moxley and Kenta pair off. They're throwing hands. They exchange some running boots. They counter each other's finishers, and then Omega comes in and hits Moxley with a trash can. And Omega sets the trash can up in the corner, goes for the "you can't escape," and grabs the trash can for the moonsault part of it, and he hits it, which is something that doesn't happen very often. He holds the trash can in front of Moxley's face so Kenta can do the basement drop kick through it. Omega covers for a 2 count. Archer comes in with a ladder and just runs over Omega and Kenta with it. He sets it up in the corner. Moxley hits a dive to the outside with Kenta. Archer hits an overhead throw on Omega onto the ladder. And Archer hits Omega with a baking sheet on the outside. Both pairs are fighting on the outside, just on opposite sides of the ring at this point. Omega gets thrown into the side of the stage. The other side, we have Moxley getting back into the ring. He gets on the STF, but Kenta bites his hand to get out of it. Moxley throws a chair into the ring. He sets it up. Omega on the outside hits Archer with a cooler. Moxley ends up getting sat in the chair, and Kenta hits a running knee, and the chair collapses underneath the weight of both of them. Then Omega and Archer, they're still fighting out on the outside on the floor. Kenta joins the party. Kenta gives Peter Avalon a GTS because he wouldn't get off of his ringside heart-shaped platform bed, which I thought was hilarious. So he just gave him a GTS.
Yep.
Archer throws Omega off the barricade, which Omega looked like he was going to do some sort of springboard move off the barricade. He throws him onto Peter Avalon's bed and smashes it, but he only gets a 2 count. Moxley comes back. He hits a kick to the face of a sitting Kenta for a 2 count. And then Moxley runs Kenta into the railing, and they fight up the stage towards the concourse. Archer follows. Omega is left behind at ringside. Then we have Moxley and Kenta are fighting in the kitchen area. They get up onto a stainless steel prep station. Kenta blocks the paradigm shift and hits a DDT on Moxley. He puts on the game over, which they did not say the name of. Archer breaks that up with a box of potatoes, and Omega follows in. They're all fighting in the kitchen. Moxley punches Omega with a potato, so they make he potatoed him joke, which is slang for actually punching somebody in a wrestling match when you're not actually supposed to punch them in the head. That's if you get potatoed, it means somebody actually punched you in the face when you weren't supposed to. Moxley and Omega are fighting. They fight in from stage right where the FTR had driven in with their truck, so stage right. And Moxley finds a kendo stick underneath the ring. He hits Omega a couple times with it. Omega hits a desperation V-trigger, and then another V-trigger when they're on the outside, and sets Moxley up on the timekeeper's table. Kenta and Archer fight their way out of one of the tunnels out towards the announcer's table. It looks like Archer is going to give Kenta a powerbomb through the announcer's table. They all go scrambling, but Kenta avoids it. He ducks under a lariat of Archer, and he jumps off the stage and gives a double stomp to Moxley, who is laying on the table. But Kenta is not that heavy, so it didn't really break. It I don't even think it actually broke. I think the leg just the support just kind of went out and just kind of flopped.
Yeah, it definitely flopped a little bit more because his momentum was really like running, jump like this. So he kind of slid, and they all just fell over, but the table didn't break because there wasn't enough like downward force.
Let's see. Omega and Archer are in the ring. Archer gives Omega a choke slam, then does a rope walk moonsault for a 2 count. Archer sets up Omega for the blackout, but he escapes, and this is when the Good Brothers run out, and we get the schmoz. Archer takes them out, though. Kenta hits 2 back fists again. Archer does not sell either of the shots, but Anderson comes in. He hits a gun stun, and then Jake Roberts gets involved, gives Anderson a short arm clothesline. Gallows punches Jake, and Jake falls to his knees. Kenny sets up for a V-trigger to hit Jake Roberts, but Moxley stops him with a barbed wire bat. Kenta, they all brawl. The bat gets taken away from Moxley. Kenta ends up hitting a GTS on Moxley. Moxley rolls to the outside, and then Good Brothers hit Archer with a magic killer, and then Good Brothers have to help Omega get Archer up for the one-winged angel. He hits it and gets the victory. Kenta and Moxley are actually still fighting on the outside on the floor, and then they go off the air with Omega and the Good Brothers in the ring, and Kenta on the floor standing over Moxley.
Yeah. Good finish. Chaotic match. Can we, this is a very small note, but can we stop selling for Jake Roberts and or anybody that old? Like, I hate to say that, but like his whatever that was, clothesline, like it looked bad. Like he had him by the wrist and he kind of had to re-maneuver him a little bit, and then he just kind of hit him a little bit, and people just like taking wild bumps for him. And I'm like, So listen, Diamond Dallas Page, when he was in the first year of AEW, when he was like in some of those battle royals, he's in this thing, and I mean, he looks like he's been doing DDP yoga, and I mean, he looks cut.
DDP was only in one match. He was never in a battle royale. He was only in one tag team match with Cody.
Am I thinking of Billy Gunn?
You're probably thinking Billy Gunn.
I'm thinking of Billy Gunn. All right, but either way, DDP, Billy Gunn, they look like they're in decent shape. But like Jake Roberts doesn't look like he should be clotheslining anybody. And I'm like, this looks whack. I didn't like his involvement in this match. What I did like was that since he's there, they were going to set him up for a V-trigger. They had Kenny Omega ready to hit a V-trigger on Jake Roberts. He was like holding the ropes. And that was when I was like, all right, that's fine. If you want to use the old guy to get some heat, fine by me. I think that's totally cool. But I liked that Kenta, he hit the GTS. Moxley made it look a lot better this time. He definitely took it the right way instead of just standing up. And he didn't pin him because he rolled out of the ring, but it was enough to not save the match. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you get hit by a match or by a move, you roll out of the ring, and then your tag team partner's getting covered, and you come in and do your dive. You know what I mean? You rescue him. He did not. Like, that was enough to take him out. So it kind of showed you, hey, GTS is got some power behind it. You know what I mean? Because that's forecasting their eventual match. And again, like I said, he didn't get the pin on him, but he had to roll out of the ring because he wasn't, in any mood to fight anymore. He needed to take a break. So I thought that was kind of a cool little move. I don't like when a good match ends in schmaz like that. And I really liked this up until the end there. It was still fine, still good for sure. But like, it definitely took a little bit out of it. But it also is in fitting with, what's going on in the feud with the Good Brothers, with, Omega and Bullet Club or whatever. So, yeah, overall, I mean, I definitely enjoyed the finish. I don't want to sound as critical as I feel like I'm sounding. But sometimes when stuff breaks down like that a little bit, I get a little disappointed. But I did like this Falls Count Anywhere. My only other question, though, was I thought they said this was going to be unsanctioned. I was really expecting lights out, and they didn't do it.
Yeah, they didn't go through the pomp and circumstance that they usually did for an unsanctioned lights out match. It was really just in the graphic that it was an unsanctioned match and whatnot. So yeah, kind of weird they didn't take the time out to do that. But
especially because they started this match at like 9:30.
Yeah.
Like this, they had a fair amount of time dedicated to this because, I mean, they went all over. Like you said, they were in the kitchen. And also, I didn't catch that potato reference. That's kind of funny hearing you say that now that 2 and 2 put together for me now.
Yeah, one of the announcers was like, oh, you just potatoed him. I think it was Excalibur, but...
That's pretty funny, actually. And it would be Excalibur, of course, to use the inside baseball terms there. But yeah, I mean, the right result, a good match, a lot of fun. The GTS on Peter Avalon and destroying his little bed was just a nice little insert. I thought that was really funny. So, I mean, it was a fun ending to the show. And like I said, definitely the right result, too.
I had to look it up because we were talking about DDP being in a match and looking a lot better. DDP is less than a year younger than Jake the Snake. He is like 11 months younger than, or actually 10 months younger than Jake the Snake.
Well, I tell you this, that's the difference between doing DDP yoga and
lots
doing
of drugs
that Jake Roberts has put into his body. Not to get too, in-ring political or anything here, but that's what happens. And I don't have a ton of room to talk because I'm not as in shape as I'd like to be either. But dang, that blows my mind.
But as far as the match, I mean, the finish was kind of what it had to be. I don't think there was a good way to get out of this match without this kind of finish anyways. So it makes sense how it worked out. And, I mean, Archer was the right person to take the fall anyways, but they still protected him because, of course, the Good Brothers got involved. But storyline wise, it makes complete sense why the Good Brothers would get involved. And I can forgive this one because it's super rare that AEW has these types of finishes anyways.
That's fair.
So I am okay because this is a type of finish that we see twice a year, if that, out of AEW. So I'm okay with the how this one went down.
That's true. Yep. And to be fair, also, like I mentioned, like the people involved, like it would make sense that this is how this finish is going because of, you know, the Good Brothers being involved and you know, having to get involved and cheat with Kenny Omega and his current heel character. Same goes for New Japan. New Japan rarely does this kind of finish unless it's the Bullet Club involved. So I see a common thread there.
Yeah. Anything else about this match?
Nothing else about the match, no.
Yeah. Ratings came out earlier today. Combined viewership was down to the lowest since May of last year. Against the impeachment trial, news basically dominated the ratings, but AEW still maintained decent at 741. NXT got slaughtered though. They dropped under 600. They dropped to 558, which is an awful rating, but down overall. The audience total was down 155,000 viewers overall. News always ends up kind of hurting AEW more because they were down 100,000, whereas NXT dropped 50,000. So that's where the 150,000 drop was distributed. But AEW seems to always get hit with the news worse than NXT.
Yep, it seems like WWE tends to get hit by sports, and AEW gets hit by news. And take that as whatever you will regarding their audience. But I will say that I believe, I'd have to double check the numbers I read, but I believe AEW beat out 2 NBA games. So, I mean, that's still kind of a win. It's just this impeachment trial thing that's got everybody watching elsewhere. But, I mean, a decent number given the circumstance, and nice to see, again, they're actually beating sports. So,
So overall, given the circumstances, I think they did fine this week. Again, they dropped down, but they actually still, ratings-wise, last week was a 0.32. This was a 0.29. So not a massive drop, 0.03 drop, were basically the same number as the 27th, and yeah, so whatever. So I don't think I have anything else to discuss on this show. I thought it was pretty decent. Again, we had all those little Easter eggs. You missed the Hangman Paige swapping out the papers. A lot of people did, just like listening to some shows and whatnot. So even like somebody missed it on one of the shows. Alvarez missed it and Meltzer got it and noticed that's what happened, or vice versa. One of them noticed that and one of them didn't. So that was kind of funny that, little misdirection right there from Matt Hardy, and caught some people and didn't catch others.
I like that. I got to ask you, I don't know if you mentioned it and maybe I missed it, but what was the small detail in the Sammy and MJF segment that you mentioned?
Oh, it was just the phone.
Oh, just the phone. Okay.
Bringing out the phone, like, it's one thing you notice early that it happened. It was a little thing. A lot of people do that anyways. Like, if they're just like, if I'm gonna be somewhere, like if I ever go to work, when I used to work in an office, the first thing I do when I get to my cubicle was take my keys and phone out of my pocket and just set them on the table, because I hate having so much stuff in my pocket. So, right. It's kind of a natural thing to me. So MJF doing that felt natural to me, but I'm like, oh, he's doing this for a reason. And that's kind of like
right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I see where you're coming from now.
All right. So, I need to go watch some New Japan, because they had 2 shows, the New Beginning shows in Hiroshima, which had a combination of 3 title matches that I have to watch. The junior heavyweight, the junior heavyweight singles title, the heavyweight tag, and then a IWGP heavyweight intercontinental dual championship match between Ibushi and Sonata. So I have to go watch at least those 3 matches, though I hear the tag match was not so great. It went way long and the finish was awful. So
I'm worried about that.
Yeah.
Who was challenging for the junior heavyweight
show against Hiromu?
Oh.
Everybody says that match was awesome though.
Yeah, that sounds like it rocks.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, stay tuned to the channels for that. Trey and I we got to set up a time. I'm guessing will probably be either Saturday or Sunday evening when we record that show. So be sure to watch the channels. If you're listening to this as a podcast, head over to our YouTube or Twitch and subscribe / follow. They call it different things on different platforms. So whichever platform you prefer, because we do these shows live. If you are watching this on YouTube or Twitch, you can grab this as a podcast on all your favorite podcast apps. Comments, question, feedback, you can send those to eric@thatswrestling.com. You can also snag the RSS feed at thatswrestling.com as well. Follow us on Twitter @thatswrestling1 with the number 1. We have not been tweeting as much as we should, but we'll get there. There's
I think it should be my running gimmick that I'm a bad account manager.
There is a Discord. You can come hang out with us there. We have a whole bunch of different topics because it covers some of my other projects as well, but there's a wrestling channel in there. And head over to your favorite podcast app of choice and drop a review. It really helps us out with the search results. And like I said, stay tuned for some New Japan stuff probably this weekend. So for Caleb Johnson, my name is Eric LaRoche, and you have been watching and listening to That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.